Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are back, y'all. We are back to talk more about this P. Diddy trial. And Cassie's testimony is over. It's over. And like my thumbnail says, did Cassie convince you? If you are a juror right now, what are you thinking? Based on the charges that you've heard P. Diddy has, what were his charges? What were his charges? Racketeering. He got so many charges. Racketeering, conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Were you convinced of these charges? I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you what. I wasn't convinced. Unfortunately, I wasn't convinced. I wanted to be convinced when this trial first started. Ooh, I was ready. I was ready to be convinced. Now, let me tell you what I did get convinced of. I did get convinced that he's a horrible person. I did get convinced that he was definitely abusive towards Cassie. I'm definitely convinced that he got some kinky ways and he has money can buy anything. I'm convinced of all that. But when we were talking about the charges and, he could be going away for life, I'm thinking of the offenses that I am convinced of with Diddy. Would that be worth life in prison? And I wasn't convinced of that. And I know people are going to say, well, that doesn't matter. You got to convince them of the crime first, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. I'm going to tell you this. Cassie's testimony really actually left me more confused. This is going to be weird that you have one image and then all of a sudden you hear Cassie testify and you have another image. Do I believe that he beat on Cassie? I mean, of course, who can't believe we saw the video. So, of course, he beat on Cassie. Do I believe that he had influence on Cassie? Yeah, I do. But how did most of that influence come by? It came because he had money and she wanted his money. If P. Diddy would have been broke, no money, no fame, no fortune, would Cassie have put up with all this? If he didn't have strings to pull for his music career, would she have put up with all this? Probably not. And most people will say, well, that doesn't matter. You don't understand because you've never been abused. You're right. Maybe I could never understand. But if I'm a juror, you got to make me understand. That's the problem is, are all jurors going to be people who've been through domestic violence and where they completely understand everything Cassie went through? They're not. So you've got to even convince people like me who haven't been in that sort of an environment. And I'm just listening to the testimony. And there's just a lot of parts of the testimony, y'all, where I believe they were both drug addicts, both under the influence of drugs. And I think that there were a lot of things that played into why Cassie stayed. And is abuse one of them, mental abuse? Yeah, it is. But I also think she stayed because she was an addict on drugs. And basically, that was how she got her drugs. I believe she stayed because she wanted to be in the music industry, and staying with him made her think she could get a big record deal, or she had one. I think she stayed because she liked riding on the fancy jets and going to St. Bart's and all these wonderful places. I do. So I think there are a lot of reasons that she stayed. And I can't really just narrow it down as saying it's because he forced her. Because, it's really her testimony. I was even wondering, what were they prosecuting kind of do with her testimony? In a lot of ways, Cassie being the person that set up these parties, so intricately involved in the parties and the freak offs. We even hear about her threatening a guy and telling a guy she gonna F him up and kill him or have somebody kill him because this guy had a tape of maybe one of the freak offs and she was in the freak off. So I'm saying, hey, girl, well, if you there because of coercion and you're scared to leave and someone has a recording, maybe this is going to be your way out. Maybe this is going to be your way out, right? But instead, she threatened the guy about don't expose my life. She didn't want to be exposed. And she's saying, hey, I'm going to F you up. And if I don't F you up, because I never killed no one, I'm going to have him, I guess, meaning P. Diddy, F you up. And I don't know, I guess somewhere along the way, she's saying that Diddy made it go away. So he must have paid the guy off or something and got the sex tape back. Who knows? But there's just a lot of testimony with Cassie around sort of being a bit complicit in all of this. We heard testimony that even after P. Diddy and her broke up and she was away from him and she was dating her now current husband, Alex Fine, that there came a time when Diddy invited her out. Now she's dating her whole soon-to-be husband. He invited her out for something or another, and she accepted the date. I'm thinking, okay, Cassie, you were with this abusive man for all these years. You're now moved on with your life. You've gotten away from him. You're with a whole new man. And Diddy calls and say, let's go out. And the first thing you do is like, yeah, I want to go. It was something like to Coachella or something like that. Of course, you want to go. So you go out with your abuser once again, even though you're with a whole nother man that loves you, wants to be with you, is not abusive to you. You go out, back out with Diddy again. And then she tells the story that after they went out, they went back to her place and Diddy took advantage of her in the wrong way, the R word. What? Then I said, oh my goodness. And then she tells her husband was so what he wasn't her husband at the time. He was so upset about it because she went back and told him, oh, he armied. What? And here's the kicker. After that, after she was attacked, after she was the R word, she then gives more testimony that thereafter, a week later or whatever, she went out again with Diddy, but this time it was consensual sex. This too much, y'all. This too much. I mean, we know that the definition is no means no. We know that. But at some point in time, I know someone's going to come in my comments and tell me, well, you don't understand the mentality of a person who's abused. And that's what happens. They keep going back to their abuser, this and that and this and that. That's fine. That's fine. But for me, just for me, that's fine if that's what happens in abuse. But for me, I'm not going to be able to totally convict Diddy over the Cassie testimony, because otherwise I might have to put Cassie in jail. Because I guess the only way they're going to protect Cassie because is saying that she's protected in all of this illegal act, because whatever he was doing illegally, she was a big part of it in terms of human trafficking. And I guess the only way they're going to protect Cassie from saying that she was an accomplice of Diddy is to say that she was only doing it because she was abused and she had no choice. That's got to be why they're trying to protect her that way, because otherwise, if she's not a victim of Diddy, then she's an accomplice of Diddy's. And if she's an accomplice of Diddy's, if he gets time, sure, if he gets the majority of time, she's got to get some type of time, right? So you would have to paint her as, no, she was being coerced. She had to stay there. I think she was stuck with Diddy. I do. But I think she was stuck more so because of her addiction to drugs and also her addiction to wanting to be famous and fame and money. I mean, if you think about it, even this idea of Cassie later on coming back and suing Diddy for whatever, $20 million, $30 million and him settling, it's ironic that it came after she got with Alex Fine and they were trying to live their life. Supposedly, they were struggling financially. They had to move home with Cassie's parents. And then all of a sudden, they decide, okay, I'm going to sue Diddy for all this money. Great. She should get some money. What she went through, she should get money. Even though she was being paid the entire time. You know, I was thinking that before this trial, y'all, I was thinking that Diddy was never paying Cassie. But Cassie was like an employee. She was a paid employee, but she was also a participant in this. So it's really, really muddy. Really, really muddy. Do I think she was abused? I do. Do I think that she suffered some mental abuse? I do. If you can't really go through that type of trauma and not have mental abuse. But I'm going to stick to what I said 2 videos ago, and that is Cassie already came to Diddy broken. Cassie was already broken, and a lot of these ways that made her susceptible to the Diddy world was because of how she came in here. And now we find out that the parents knew about it. They was involved, complicit in some kind of way. You know, I don't know. So right now I'm going to tell you that I can't convict Diddy of all these charges. Now, maybe I don't know the law. Maybe I don't know what human trafficking is. Somebody told me that if you just pay a male stripper for sex to come across state lines, that's considered trafficking. That's considered trafficking. Now, if I thought trafficking had to be you're making money off of them, or they're being a slave to you and you're not paying them. One is, I don't think Diddy was making money off these people. He wasn't charging people for these freak offs, so he wasn't making any money. Then also, he wasn't giving them pennies on the dollar. It looks like he was paying everybody handsomely. That's why everybody stayed. All these people were making a lot of good money. Everyone working for Diddy was making a lot of good money. So if we end up calling Diddy a trafficker and a kingpin, and and we say that everyone who worked for him was a victim, then what does that mean with if you work for the mob or something? Could I just say I was a victim of the guy who's the head of the mob? I mean, what prevents everyone who aids and abets a horrible person like Diddy free of no charges? Because then everybody could just always say, yeah, I helped him. Yeah, I murdered people. Yeah, I trafficked people for Diddy, but I did it because I was afraid for my life that I would get killed. Well, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that if you work for a drug lord or a mafia person, that you could get killed by that person you work for. So is that threat alone enough to allow you to do heinous things without being charged? I'm like, if you convict Diddy, he didn't do it alone. Why would everybody else get to walk free? Because everyone else would be able to say they're a victim of Diddy. There was a lot of people on the payroll for Diddy doing this stuff. A lot of people. Cassie ain't the only one. That's why I don't really want to just necessarily concentrate on her. She's one of many. I mean, if you're going to convict Diddy of all this, you're going to have to convict a lot of people, because he wasn't making money off these people. He was paying. And then I still haven't heard any testimony where he actually engaged in the sex act with the person. Now, I guess that's going to come later. I guess later we're going to hear about Diddy doing it with other people. I don't know. But right now, we see Diddy just being watching it. And then even when they did say that there was threesomes, he was more having it with Cassie. They didn't say he was doing it with the male stripper. Cassie didn't even say that. So, I guess they say this trial going to take 2 months. I guess later on we're going to be hearing testimony about P. Diddy himself, maybe doing things to male sex workers that he shouldn't be doing. I don't know. But right now, he's paying people to come in and have sex with Cassie, and he's watching, and she's staying, and she's going to Coachella, and she's dating other people, but still running back over to Diddy, getting little pops of money. This is what I'm thinking. This is really what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, when she says she went out with Diddy to Coachella, what I'm thinking is she was broke at that time. She had gotten away from Diddy, but Diddy was paying her bills and all this other kind of stuff. So my thinking is she went back over to Diddy to get some more money. That's what I'm thinking. Because I don't really understand why you would go out with Diddy after you have left the life and you're with your new man and you guys are happy and go lucky. What I'm thinking of, she wants more time, wanted to live that life. And she thought, maybe I'll just go over here to Diddy real quick and he'll throw at me a quick $10,000, $5,000 or something. I don't know. It sounds crazy, y'all. It really does sound crazy. But, that R thing after the Malibu dinner, that's where they were, the Malibu dinner. They went to the Burning Man. That's where they went. They went to Burning Man, and then they went out for dinner, and then he took her back home, and then that's when he effed her. But she says it was an R. But then later on, 2 weeks later, she was doing it again, and that was consensual. Woo. I don't know. I'm going to have to say no. I'm going to have to say no, that at this point in time, I'm not ready to convince Diddy of all these things. I'm ready to convince him of a lot of things, a really a lot of heinous things. But I don't know if those things I'm ready to convince him of. Definitely sexual abuse. Can he go to jail for that? Battery. Can he go to jail for that? Yeah, I'm sure he can't go to jail for all those things. But that ain't what he's up for. So I'm hoping that they're going to build a better case. Supposedly when Alex Fine, the husband, heard about the R word, what happened, he got upset. I wonder, did he know about the part where she went back and had consensual sex? I wonder if that was new to him. That's the other part. Shoot, Cassie might be over here messing up this marriage, because we know she told him a lot of stuff, but did she tell him everything that she's having to talk about on this court on this stand right now? I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. So she got finished. She's done. Like I said, she didn't close the deal for me. She really did. She actually kind of gave me more questions. I do feel sorry for her. I hope she's better now. Supposedly, even after she got away from Diddy, she had to go to rehab. And I think they were asking her, did she go to sex rehab too? And she said she didn't. She needs to. She needs to. She probably needs to stop telling herself that the only reason she was having sex at those freak offs was because she was made to do it. She might need to go to rehab for that too. You know, there were a lot of people who knew that Cassie was being abused. They started interviewing this lady from Diddy Kane, and they were also asking, why do you stay? Why do you stay? There's a lot of people that knew about it and was kind of pleading with Cassie to leave. Let's go. You don't need to be here. And she said, well, I have to stay. And she didn't stay. She didn't say she had to stay because she said she was afraid of Diddy. She said she was staying because he was paying her bills and he was her ticket to into the music industry. That's different. That's different from a woman saying, I'm afraid to leave because he may kill me and my kids if I leave. I understand. But what Cassie said, I was afraid to leave because what I might lose is all this money I'm being paid, and I might have to go to an ordinary life and get an ordinary job, and I might not have a music career. So there were a lot of motivations for Cassie. Cassie's only motivation or reason for staying wasn't fear alone. So I don't know if people could still say that. Cassie clearly said a lot of her motivation was also money and fame, both. Okay, so did he use his power? To be honest with you, rich people don't even have to put that much strain on you to get people to be around them for their money. Just having money makes people come to you. They don't even have to force people to be around them because their money alone will draw and attract those people. So in the world of Diddy, Diddy's always going to have some level of control or power over over Cassie or any other person because he's a billionaire. So, yeah, Cassie's testimony, y'all, I'm not convinced. I am not convinced that the sole reason she stayed was because she was scared and she was imprisoned and all this other kind of stuff. Sorry, it didn't work for me. It did not work for me. I mean, they've proven to me that Diddy was a drug addict. They've proven to me that Cassie was a drug addict. They've proven to me that they did drugs together. Even some of the new testimony coming from the Diddy Kane lady when she said she witnessed him hitting Cassie over the head with a frying pan. He even abused her, and she ended up getting a small settlement of $30,000 for the abuse she suffered from Diddy too. Diddy physically abused. Diddy is violent. He's definitely violent. He's not only violent normally, but he's also violent when he gets high. Even worse, he becomes a very angry, mean person. And I don't even say he can become it. I think he is already, and it just comes out even more. He's a tyrant. He's a lot of things. And there were a lot of people who stood around, watched, did nothing, all because of what Diddy could give them. Even if you're in a house and you see a man hit a woman over the head with a frying pan, what makes you not say nothing? Because you're still just looking out for your own career. That's what you're doing. Oh, I was so frozen, I didn't know what to do. So you were afraid too? You were afraid to leave? I don't know. All this perceived fear that if I see a woman getting beat with a frying pan by a man, that I'm too afraid to leave and get away from that man myself. But I decide to stick around because I want all the goodies from that man. I want the power he has. Diddy was not the only music producer in town. There's plenty of other music producers. They act like he was the last man standing, like they just had to put up with from Diddy, that nowhere else could they go. I don't know. You know, I'm sure they were in some sort of contract. Diddy came, they were in contract with him, but geez, I guess people now believe just because you under a music contract of a producer, you now got to be a sex slave to them and also take abuse. Where do people learn this from? Where do people learn this from? I mean, the Don Richards lady, she testified a lot. She saw Combs punch, choke, slap Cassie. But Cassie stayed. Cassie was scared. She didn't ask anybody for any help. Everybody knew about it. She had plenty of help, but she was just afraid to go. She afraid for her life, or she was afraid the money would dry up? I think she was afraid the money would dry up. That's what I think. And it would. And after she finally did leave, she was correct. The money dried up. After she left, the money dried up. And then that's when she said, you know what, I've been abused and I need to be paid. And good for her. Good for her. She got some money. So I'm happy that she got some money. I'm happy that she's gone on with her life. But from it all, I'm not there yet with the whole human trafficking. Like people may tell me, well, you don't know the law. Yeah, maybe I don't. Well, they would need to educate me. They would absolutely need to educate me about the law. Don Richards said that after she saw the whole skillet incident and the choking of Cassie and the beating of Cassie, that later on, Diddy called her into the office and told her, people go missing, and that could be you, and they could die. Basically threatened them that if you said anything, I'm going to off you. Now, that's a threat. Now, that is a complete threat. A complete threat. And that's why she kept her mouth shut. That's why they didn't say anything. But what's so interesting is she didn't say anything about Cassie, but she said something about herself, and that's how she ended up getting the settlement. So I don't know. I guess Diddy was comfortable buying people's silence, because most people, if they threaten to talk, it sounds like what he did was he paid them off. Because although she said I had to keep silent because he told me he would kill me, she also didn't just keep silent because she was afraid. She also kept silent about it, supposedly, because she also got a payoff. There's always money involved, right? There's never anyone standing on principle, right? The principle of it. Yeah, she got paid because he also abused her or hit her. But Cassie, I guess you on your own. There must have been some sort of belief that Cassie, you're on your own. You could do what we do. We could see it and then get paid for what we saw or what we endured, or you can sit here and keep enduring it. It's almost like everyone had a choice. You could expose Diddy and get paid, or what you could do is you could stay there and just keep receiving benefits from whatever else you're getting. All these people, I'm telling you, everyone involved with Diddy has a sickness in their own way. There is a lack of morality in all of these people. I'm sorry to say there's a lack of morality. There is a lack of courage. And that also made them susceptible to the Diddys of the world. Because anyone, your life could be threatened, but there's other ways to protect yourself. But no one ever had the courage to do it. No one ever had the courage. All these people, so many people, no one ever had the courage to stand up to Diddy. And I guess people want to say because everyone was just so afraid of Diddy, or was it that everyone didn't have the courage to stand up to him because they also didn't want to reap the repercussions, the monetary repercussions, not the physical repercussions, but the monetary repercussions. A lot of people who kept their mouths shut about Diddy all these years, a lot of it was for a sense of not missing out. FOMO. It was some fear, okay, but it was some FOMO fear of missing out. A lot of these ladies, they also hated Diddy. I mean, it looks like Diddy kind of messed up Danny Kane's marriage, or whatever the young lady's name was. She wanted to be a solo artist. Diddy said no. I guess, everybody felt they had to go through Diddy. And when he didn't give them what they wanted, there were problems. A lot of people wanted something from Diddy. This is the other part of it. A lot of people wanted things from Diddy, and he's a horrible person. They wanted things from a horrible person, right? They wanted things from a horrible, horrible man. A lot of them talk about how they were scared of Diddy. They saw him do things, but then they wanted to keep coming back and working for him. It's hard, y'all. It's hard to accept this. It is hard to accept this. It's hard to understand a person who sees a man abusing Cassie the way he did. He also hits you in your head, but he's not sleeping with you. He's not taking advantage of you sexually, because that's what Cassie said kept her there, but you still keep coming back for a contract. We got to stop giving women passes on everything, Some things you can understand, some things you can empathize with, but everything. But anyway, that's all I got right now, y'all. I want to see, after all of Cassie's testimony, where do you land? Are you ready to convict Diddy yet of all the charges, or are you going to have to hear more? So I'm on this part where I got to hear more. I'm sure there's more coming. They said it's 2 months long. I got to hear more, because off of Cassie's testimony, I can't convict Diddy of the charges. I can convict him of a lot of other stuff, but I can't convict him of the charges. So we shall see. Talk to y'all later. Bye.